Welcome to another episode of The Crimson Fly, where you can see the process of making the comic. My name is Colin SkipperWing Bird, and if you'd like a version of this video without the audio commentary, you can check out the links in the description below, the cards, or in the annotations when they appear on screen at the end of this video. Before we get started, today's music is Almost a Year Ago by John Deley and the 41 Players. You can find a link to download it in the description below. On to today's strip, number 73. So, you might have found this strip pretty familiar? That's intentional. I wanted to invite a comparison between the events of issue 5 and issue 6, and I figured that reusing the composition was a great way to do that. I also figured that I'd suggest a contrast by framing the characters and their objective in white, in front of a white van, rather than in black like I did for issue 5. For the factory, this also creates an unintentional contrast with the state on the cover, since that one is burning to black cinders there. What's going to happen to the factory? Well, you'll have to read to find out. I also wanted to use a white factory to contrast with the gun shop from issue 5, but that didn't quite work out since I didn't frame the gun shop, which is more of a transparent fade than any specific color, in that kind of lighting. Whoopsies! One other thing I did here that I wish I had done better was introduce one of the main characters without designing or illustrating a model sheet for them. I guarantee that's going to bite me in the butt later on when I have to draw this character more consistently and have no model sheet to refer to. Even creators of characters need model sheets to remind themselves of what rules they've stated for their characters. For a tangentially related example, Akira Toriyama once stated in an interview that he'd stopped using one of his characters in Dragon Ball because he'd forgotten that she'd even existed. For a slightly more contemporary example, how long are Batman's ears supposed to be? Sure, it does vary from artist to artist, but without setting a standard, you can bounce between Jim Lee or Frank Miller's cat cowl or Kelly Jones's Dracula hood. Back on topic, you'll notice that our character is wearing a very familiar fluffily hooded hood. Yeah. Once I was finished with the static strip, I decided to do the same animations and transitions I had for issue 5. I should have corrected that. This is slightly different from what because I wanted to. This was slightly different because I wanted to isolate the fluffy hoodie man from the rest of the gang coming out of the van, but otherwise the same. I also broke a personal rule and pilfered an old animation from that comic, specifically the clouds, and directly deposited them in the same spot in this comic that they were in that comic. Gasp! Why did I do this? Well, for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, I'm on a deadline, and I didn't think people would notice. In the case of the former, I really didn't remember exactly how I pulled off the clouds moving back and forth across the screen in the first instance, and I really didn't have time to try and recreate that moment, so I just grabbed what worked and plunked it in the same spot. No muss, no fuss. In the case of the latter, I didn't think people would notice because while the compositions are similar, the elements are different enough that it isn't just the same strip being redrawn or copied. Plus, the fog helps lend familiarity to the scene. That being said, I didn't like how the fog overlapped and obscured the individual silhouettes since everything has a base color of white. So I dialed down their opacity by lowering the alpha down to 50%. So the same, but different. The real lesson to take away here is that most anything is fair game when it comes to creating art, as long as you aren't maliciously deceiving your audience or directly plagiarizing other creatives. Also, repetition isn't necessarily a bad thing, provided you also provide a contrast with what came before and aren't just copying it wholesale. And that's it for today's video. please, if you like what you saw, please subscribe and turn on notifications, the little bell thing next to the subscribe button, to keep seeing these videos. Also, don't forget to check out this comic in its original format. This is Colin SkipperWing Bird signing out, and I'll catch you peeps later.